Just, yeah, project towards that mic. It's going to be all good. I don't want to miss a syllable. I'm really excited about this episode. So there's like, I mean, it's really, I'm kind of like marketing it as the Just Like Mom deep dive, but there's a lot more going on here. So it'll be good.
How many times did Stu say about...
Oh, yeah.
The broccoli.
Sunshine and broccoli, mistaken identity.
He went on.
And see, Brock was born with Just Like Mom.
Well, say that. I mean, when we'll do the Brock portion early on, and then that's a fun fact here. So we're live on Facebook, and I think I just got to make sure we're there, confirm we're there, and then we're gonna get going here. Dun, dun, dun. Yep, we look good here. Okay. Your camera's a bit high, but that's okay. I think that's okay.
Is there a camera?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah.
Might bring it down a titch. Just why not? I have a little extra time here. So say hello to your adoring public, and then...
Hello, everybody. And welcome to a new episode.
Yeah. Might bring it down a titch. Yeah, see, there you go. We're in a continuous loop there. Okay, perfect. Let me just bring it down a bit.
This is a perfect day.
Perfect. And in that seat that's where Stu sits. Cam sits right here. And both of them.
See, Tim knows everything.
I know. I'm going to talk about Tim too. Don't worry. He's the reason we're sitting here today.
That's right. That's right.
No, it all connects to Tim. I was doing the math there. I mean, I'll save it for the podcast, but if Tim doesn't reach out to you about Stu talking sunshine and broccoli, this never happens. So, okay. Let's see now. Let me just play this. All right. Bear with me, please. Here we go. Just why not? I have a little extra time here. So say hello to your adoring public, and then...
Hello, everybody. And welcome to a new episode.
Yeah. So, works. Okay. Kill that.
So should I look at you or look at the camera?
Look at me. Like I always say, this is an audio presentation that we happen to let people watch us record.
Right. Okay.
This is not a television show.
Right.
That's for sure. Okay. All right, here we go. I'll do my little intro and we'll just chat here. What number is this? Tim, do you know what number this is?
Gotta be 900 and something.
No.
No? 600.
800 and something. I got it 870, I think. Let me check.
Oh, because I added the Pandemic Fridays in. That's why.
But the pandemics are part of that. They get their own number. Yeah. They get their own numbers. Come on, Tim. Shape up.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know you're in the four countdown.
All right. And this is what? June 22? Yeah. Okay. Almost too warm for the hoodie, but I got to wear it for the camera because the man's father is on the deck. So here we go. Here we go. I want to have a fun intro too. You guys will enjoy this. Here we go.
Look out, Mom. Here we come. The surprise is yours on Just Like Mom.
Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 870 of Toronto Mic'd, a weekly podcast about anything and everything. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals for your home and your business. Palma Pasta. Create custom. Enjoy the taste of fresh homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. And Mike Majeski, or as I call him, Mimico Mike. He's the real estate agent who's ripping up the Mimico real estate scene. Learn more at realestatelove.ca. I'm Mike from TorontoMike.com, and joining me this week is Just Like Mom producer extraordinaire, Paul Burford. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Mike. What a treat to be here.
Well, listen, I have not messed up that intro. Tim Hill here will vouch for that. I don't think I've ever messed up that intro, and I goofed it up, and it was because I suddenly felt this so hot. So I have to discuss my hoodie now so I can take it off because it's suddenly way too hot for this hoodie. I'm literally melting over here. Are you doing okay? You're wearing the Just Like Mom sweater.
Yeah,
you're okay?
wearing the Just Like Mom thing, appropriately, I felt. I've kept it since 1981 when it was given to me. And here we are.
And finally, it's got its moment in the sunlight here because now I'm going to take a selfie with you after this episode. And that I'm going to make sure I capture the glory of that Just Like Mom sweatshirt.
Now, and let me show you what I have underneath the Just Like Mom sweatshirt.
Okay, good. Because if this thing doesn't come off me soon, I'm going to be a puddle here. Okay.
I've got the Just Like Mom and Dad.
Okay, and what does that top part say? I was a contestant on
Just
Like Mom and Dad. Okay, cool. But that sweater, that's everything, man. That's the real deal. Holy smokes.
This is the real deal.
And on the back it says producer.
Yeah,
I saw it earlier.
Producer, yeah.
And it's got Paul on the side. This is custom made for you.
Custom made for me by a couple of adoring crew members. We had lots of adoring crew in that time.
Do you want to shout out the crew members who made that? Do you remember?
The captain who would have made it was Tony Stevens, and Tony was great. She was an associate producer, and she works now for Spin Master. She's the head of physical production for Spin Master.
Okay, wow, yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Paw Patrol and all that.
Mom's Paw Patrol almost as big as Just Like Mom.
Almost,
Okay, so Paul, here's what we're going to do because we have so much to cover. And I need to talk about the sweater and why I'm wearing the sweater, which will then allow me to take off the sweater. But first, I just want to acknowledge you have a chaperone here, your bodyguard, I'm going to assume, but your pal, Tim is a really important FOTM cog in the FOTM wheel. First of all, I just want to say, I know he's not on camera here or on mic, but he's got a pair of headphones on. Hello to Tim.
Hello, Mike.
And Tim is the guy, I think on a Pandemic Friday, I said there was somebody who knew you, Paul, who heard Stu Stone allude to a children's entertainment duo by the name of Sunshine and Broccoli. And that's why I'm wearing my Sunshine and Broccoli hoodie, which says it's cool to be kind. But again, I'm literally melting, so I'm going to burn through this. But Paul, of what relevance to you, what is the significance of Sunshine and Broccoli in your personal life? Please tell us.
Well, Broccoli is my son.
Whoa, I think this is a big deal. Okay,
and I'm proud to have him as my son. He was a star hockey player in Thornhill.
Really?
And eventually he had a couple of concussions. So I thought, well, maybe I'll borrow a guitar from a cousin of mine who's a music teacher in Scarborough, because the music gene was in my father's side of the family. It didn't hit me at all because I tried.
It missed you.
People wanted me in a group and all that, and I couldn't get past Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures. Anyway, so I got him a guitar, and he just took like a duck to water. Within a year, he was playing over his head like Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
Know? And he's got like 300 songs in his head.
Wow.
And he plays 12 instruments, and I'm proud as punch. And of course, Sunshine and Broccoli is the meal ticket. But he also plays clubs. He plays rock music.
Right.
My old records, that he grew up on.
This is one talented piece of vegetable, this broccoli. He's a talented guy.
Yes. He went to musical theater at Sheridan and came out and did some dramatic work, a couple of films, and Cotton Patch Gospel and Meaford, and Look Back in Anger, John Osborne's film play.
I thought that was an Oasis song. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take it off, but I just want to make sure that I know Broccoli's going to be listening. So Brock, who I like to call Broccoli, I'm wearing the hoodie. I really like the hoodie, but it's not good on warm summer days. This is a hoodie for cooler weather.
Yeah.
So it's coming off now, is what I'm telling everybody.
But Cool to Be Kind is their 4th album, and it is so good. Kids love it. Yep. And Sunshine and Broccoli are awfully good.
Oh, I can tell you, no BS here. Although if this were not true, I might say it anyways because it's good for a proud father to hear these things. But my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old love the new Sunshine and Broccoli album.
Love to hear that.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I just before I move on from the Stu Stone thing, because Tim listens to every episode of Toronto Mike. Okay, that warms the cockles of my heart. I like to hear that.
No, he's a super fan. And
well, he was at TMLX6, and I know only the super fans came out to TMLX6 because it was almost illegal. Like this was a pandemic park gathering, so we had and we were drinking in a public park too, Tim, as I recall.
But Mike, you're a big number in Toronto. Like you really are.
Tell me more. And say it slower.
No. That's why it's so cool to be here, because you are the man now. You rule the airwaves, right?
And I mean, from you, that means a great deal. I would like to hear that from anybody, but from you who worked in we're going to go through some of the stuff you worked on, including Just Like Mom. Like if the producer of Just Like Mom tells me that I'm a big number in this city, I believe it.
And you should, and like I said, I'm delighted to be here in your yard. That's one of the cool things, is that we're in Mike's yard here now. And that's the way to do it. Do a show is in the yard, no,
I love it,
social distance, no masks, a lot of dangerous Delta variants floating around, but
so you know what? Are we all fully vaxxed here? I feel like we're safe. We're not hugging and kissing here. I think we're good to go.
My final vax is Friday, but in anticipation of that, I'm building up antibodies anyway.
So Tim, thanks for being here. I hope you're comfortable there. There are more cold beers in front, cold Great Lakes beer in front of Paul. He's fine if you just snatch some as required. And just before I take off the sweatshirt, the Sunshine and Broccoli sweatshirt, although I see the sun's going behind a cloud, I might have a little extra time here. I just will say that Stu Stone acts confused. He confused Sunshine and Broccoli with other FOTMs, other friends of Toronto Mike, who have been on this program, Splash and Boots. Like those names are a bit similar because there's S and B, and then they're similar, Sunshine and Broccoli, Splash and Boots. And I think if my story's correct, Splash and Boots won a Juno Award.
Yeah.
And Stu Stone reached out to Sunshine and Broccoli to congratulate them on their Juno Award. And Stu told this story. Tim heard it. He told it sitting where you are, and was concerned, because he didn't get a reply back. So that he offended them. Do you know, on the record here, because I know you speak often to Broccoli, was there any anger towards Stu Stone that they confused them?
No. I mean, it's all good. The main thing is you spell the name right.
Broccoli's a tough word to spell.
It is. And at first I wasn't happy that they were calling him Broccoli, but I got used to it, and that's the way it is. That's showbiz. And if it works, you go with it. Now, just so you know, for Father's Day, Brock made me chicken parmesan.
Nice.
He cooked up chicken parmesan for you. He's become a real chef.
Did you watch him cook it? I think he went to Palma Pasta.
No.
Right?
No.
He packaged
he went
that up
to
for
Metro, got all these ingredients.
Okay, he made it himself.
And he did a special deal because he's getting married at the end of August.
Wow.
And so his wife-to-be is sort of giving him food preparation lessons, as if he doesn't have all these other talents. He's got to make food now. But
Wow.
it was really good, and I had to throw that in because it was a shock.
Look, I'm glad you threw it in there. I will say that if you don't have time, if broccoli doesn't have time to make chicken parmesan, I can tell you that the Palma Pasta people, and I do have a frozen meat lasagna for you in the freezer that you can.
Looking forward to it. Look,
Palma Pasta will take care of you.
I love your sponsors. We love sponsors. I mean, just like Mom was chock full of sponsors.
Robin Hood flour.
Not just Robin Hood, but Bix Pickles and everything that we could stuff on the counter, or the mothers would be drinking 7-Up, Coke, or Pepsi. I mean, and plus we sold spots within the show, Chuck E. Cheese, Parker Brothers. I mean, I love sponsors, man. And, our prize wheel of 16 spots, 4 of which were trips to Disney World.
Right.
And we were the only show licensed outside the Disney organization to use their name. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I invented product placement with that show. That was, there was no hold barred. I was given sort of a carte blanche as to what I wanted to do. And so I just said, I'm doing it all. I said, you couldn't get audiences out at CFTO, even though they had shows like Stars on Ice and Circus, which is all circus animals.
This is Agent Court?
Agent Court, yeah. And I said, I'm going to get audience. I'm going to do everything right. So I'd have 250, 300 people a show. And we gang tape 6 to 7 shows a day, 4 days in a row. He'd just be organized. That's all. And prizes. One thing Fergie and I were really set on were steering away from the pen and pencil sets of definition. And so we had great prizes. Winning family would get, winning kid would get 2 weeks at Camp Onondaga, and jewelry from Gemcraft. And then they get to spin the prize wheel with all kinds of stuff, like Disney World and all kinds of neat stuff on there. Can
I grab that picture?
Sure. Okay, grab it, yeah. And that was all Fergie. The rest of the show was my invention, but the prize wheel was all Fergie. He was a Las Vegas riverboat gambler, and he loved his wheels.
Okay, so I'm going to shout out some here just for nostalgia purposes. But obviously you talked about the Walt Disney World, but camping gear from Stokely. Is that Stokely? I don't even remember Stokely, but
that'd be camping gear from someone else.
Stokely. At least when this pic was taken.
Oh,
yeah.
It? Okay.
But here, let's run through some more here. A watch. Is that Chamel? Who's this? Caravel watch. You got Milkmate, stereo headset. Milkmate. Okay. I mean, I see. The logos don't. Okay.
Yeah.
The logos don't necessarily match the words on the outside. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Because there's bicycle.
Because there's always extra ways of making money.
I got you. That's wild because the Pepsi logo, it says, it says bicycle.
Yes.
Okay. No wonder I'm so confused here. I got you. But yeah, there's Bix. Quasar, that was probably the TV, right?
Or a small TV, really neat.
Nestle, we talked about Robin Hood flour, of course. I remember that one. But Raleigh was the bicycle. Raleigh, Sunbeam, the popcorn maker, and a mixer from Sunbeam. Standard Brands Limited. Oh, that's a great name. That's always a very generic name. But yeah, wow, yeah. And the milk, we mentioned the Milkmate. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna put a picture here. Let me pass it over to Tim. But I'm gonna put a picture on my Twitter feed at some point there to share the wheel.
Of course, Fergie being Fergie Oliver, the well-known sportscaster back then.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, because I'm as you know, Toronto Mike does his homework, and we're very organized here. But what's the origin? So, whose idea was it to have a family game show just like Mom?
Now, do you want me to tell you the full story or the
give me the full stuff. Give me the full stuff.
Okay, so I was at Dean Meyer Chevrolet's one day. Looking at cars, and I said to the sales manager, "Is there any reason you're not on television?" And he said, "No, why?" And I said, "Well, I think you should be on television. You got a good location here, just south of Yorkdale." And he said, well, what would it cost? And I said, well, what I'll do is I'll go back, write up 3 scripts, bring them in, see if you like them, and give you a cost for them. So that's what I did. And he liked the idea. And I said, it would be really smart because your target demographic, as I see it, is males 18 to 49. And there's a sportscaster on CFTO, Fergie Oliver, does the late night sports. And I said, I'll pitch Fergie and you give him a car to drive. And so that's what I did. I pitched Fergie. We did the commercials.
You want to hear some? I know you're not wearing the headphones now, but do you want to stick on the headphones? Okay, so I'm going to play, these are the Dean Myers commercials with Fergie Oliver. Here we go.
Late for work? Yeah, my car broke down. Can't figure why. It's a new one. Same as yours. Oh, yeah? You buy yours at Dean Myers? No. Then they're not the same.
At Dean Myers, we help you drive into the future with confidence.
One more.
Are you driving in the right direction? Going places is a pleasure if you're confident in your car. Just south of Yorkdale on Dufferin, you'll find a car dealer who gives me confidence.
His name is Dean Myers. And if you're like me, you'd rather trust a dealer who's established a reputation for quality and class. That's Dean Myers. We're located at 3180 Dufferin, just south of Yorkdale. So come on in and see us. We'll help you drive into the future with confidence.
So those are 2 of the 3. The third is vaporized somewhere along the line. Anyway, I gave them a budget of $21,000, which was quite a bit of change back then in 1980. Right. And so I was able to do it in film with a big crew and everything. And, taking tracking shots and crane shots. There's a couple of crane shots up at Jane, north of Highway 7.
You sound like Steven Spielberg here.
Cops. Oh, yeah. That was a good filmmaker, man. And so, afterwards, we just shook hands. Fergie got his car. And then all of a sudden, one day, this is I pitched them in April. By the way, Dean Myers only had one question about the commercials, wasn't it? He said, will they be in color? I said, yeah, they will. Yeah. So then the commercials, we shot them in May. They went on the air in June. And then in late July that year, I was up at our cottage. And my wife came to the door. I was out in the beach with my daughter, having a morning coffee, enjoying her, playing in the sand. And my wife yells, it's Fergie on the phone. Now, what is Fergie doing phoning the cottage number? I don't know how he got the number. And I'm thinking, oh, no, geez. I'm going over to the cottage and I'm thinking, oh, something's wrong with the car. And, why do I have to deal with that when I'm on a holiday? So I get to the phone and Fergie's going, and essentially to translate that, he's saying, I just pitched CTV on an idea for a game show. They've got a time slot opening up in October, and you and I are going to own the show, and Robin Hood is going to underwrite the cost.
Wow.
And so now you got to come back and figure everything out, because I don't do those things, but I've seen what you do.
Right.
And so I know you're the guy to do it all.
So Robin Hood flour that's the spark. That's the catalyst.
Yeah. I think he could have gotten somebody else, because eventually Dominion Stores underwrote the show.
Right.
But
and shout out to Dominion, because around that time you could get a Blue Jay ticket for $1 at Dominion, because I remember it was the general admission at CN East at the X. They were $1 if you bought your groceries at Dominion. So shout out to Dominion.
Anyway, so I had to come up with absolutely everything in a very short period of time. The name of the show, though, is critical. Titles are so important.
Yeah.
So I went through a lot of thinking, and then finally it hit me, just like Mom. That's a winner. that is a winner of a
Wow.
title.
So you're the man. You are the guy who came up with the title.
Or the title, and then the show. You got to
Sure.
come up with the format. You got to do the set design, line design.
And what at this time when you're starting up this Just Like Mom, what is Fergie Oliver's title? Like, is he a producer? Like, what
Well,
is
he would have been the executive producer, and because he made the deal, and the first check he gave me was for $25,000, which I appreciated.
Wow. That's why you got that sweater there.
And we made a lot of money, because we were, like I said, we just went to town on everything, selling everything imaginable under the sun. And like I said, I created product placement in the show.
Sure.
And all legitimate, because we had this bake-off segment, and I thought rather than have generic products, let's just put real stuff out there and charge people for being on the table. And sure enough, it worked. And then the mothers, that was a bake-off, and the mothers would do a taste test, and they'd either drink Coke or 7-Up or Pepsi.
Right.
And, there'd be a charge for them, for having that on the air. We had 90 seconds in the show, within the show, that we just sold off as real estate. And
that's what I do now. Just embed it in, right?
Yeah,
Bake it in.
Exactly.
No pun intended.
And then the prize wheel. So we were just making money hand over fist, really, because, Robin Hood was giving us all this money, and we were happily taking it. But I was also getting a chance to do some kind of pioneering work on television. And I came up with the idea of a family game show as opposed to a contest game show, a fun show, so that we would have 2 rounds of questions to mothers and kids. But ultimately, the game would be decided by a taste test, which is worth 50 points and would usually decide the outcome of the game. But that was a random thing. You do the taste test, the mothers hate, and I would go out, there would be a commercial break, 2-minute commercial break before the taste test.
Right.
And I would go out, and I would say to the mothers very sternly, now, you all going to promise me you're going to take big bites. If you don't, I'm going to stop the show. Right. And they're all glassy-eyed, and, there's lights, people, they got to be obedient, and they were. Good. And that's what the highlight of the show was, the mothers tasting all this awful stuff that was cooked in microwaves in 60 seconds.
I remember. I was a viewer. Now, what I don't remember is Just Like Mom pre-Fergie. So tell everybody who's the, I guess, firstly, what calendar year are we talking about? Like what?
1980.
So 1980 is when Just Like Mom debuts on CFTL.
And my son Brock was birthed with Just Like Mom. He was 6 weeks overdue.
Okay. That's wow, really?
Came out
That's overdue.
10/11. Wow. And he was born October the 7th. We went on the air something like October the 14th.
Wow.
So a lot of suspense built in on many different levels at that point in time. And originally, what CTV wanted, they wanted a name to host the show.
Right.
And back then, there weren't many Canadian names. There are now. You got names everywhere.
Sure.
But back then, there weren't. So I thought of this guy named Stephen Young because he had been on an NBC series called Judd for the Defense. Okay. And they said, oh, yeah. So immediately we got greenlit because of Stephen Young and the show itself, which was mothers and kids, life at home from a child's point of view, for good, clean family stuff. And so we got Stephen involved, and that didn't work out.
But Stephen, okay, so just to make sure people realize, the day one host of Just Like Mom, it's not Fergie Oliver. Fergie Oliver's some executive producer or whatever. It is this gentleman who I don't actually know, but Stephen Young. I guess his career didn't quite work out as planned because I don't know this name, Stephen Young.
And he had a chance to to become Richard Dawson of Canada.
Sure. But so why didn't Stephen Young work out? I guess that's my first question.
He didn't relate well to kids.
Oh, that'll do it.
And
right?
Now, Just Like Mom, that's kind of important.
Right.
And he also was very high maintenance, to be honest. If he hears this, well, that's too bad. That's showbiz. But he was. And, it just got to be a drag because everything else was going great.
Right.
With Fergie and I, And Fergie's wife, Catherine, was just opening refrigerator doors on that.
No, so I was going to ask you, Catherine Swing, of course, former Miss Canada, who was married to Fergie at the time.
Yeah.
She was in season 1 with Stephen Young. She was involved on camera.
She was just opening refrigerator doors, showing off the big prize.
Like a Vanna White type
yeah.
deal.
And then, watching over the kids while they were doing the bake-off.
Okay.
So the second season, we because we'd established ourselves, it was simple just for Fergie and Catherine to be co-hosts. And they worked so well together, because Catherine was very bright, very quick-witted, and Fergie was very personable. I love kids, and just always had a good time. I mean, being around Fergie was being around someone who just enjoyed having a good time. And so they worked great as a team together. And that's why we were, and once again, Fergie just left everything to me. They would show up for the tapings, right, and he was happy just because all of the lights and the cameras, and
everything was just going to work.
Everything was there, the nameplates for the contestants, and we'd have 50-minute turnarounds between each show. And the associate producer would say goodbye to one set of parents in the group and the other coming in. And sometimes we'd have people fly in from distant places to be on the show too.
Okay, so when it becomes clear that Stephen Young isn't going to work out, does Fergie put up his hand as executive producer and say, I'll do it? Or do you have that idea? Where does that come from?
Fergie actually came up with that idea. Because remember, Fergie was a CTV personality at that point in time too.
Sure. Well, I remember Fergie. Well, I used to watch Just Like Mom, and then of course Blue Jay games. How about those Blue Jays?
Because that developed as Just Like Mom developed. Because Fergie and I would golf every morning. He'd phone me at 6:00 in the morning. I don't know when he slept. He'd do the late sports. Phone me at 6 every morning and say, I'll be over in 10 minutes. Hang up. And sure enough, he was there in 10 minutes. And then he became, he was always friendly with the Blue Jay management. I'd be in his office. This was when we were planning Just Like Mom. And I was telling him how it was going to go. And Pat Gillick was always phoning from distant shores, asking Fergie's opinion on the latest.
Should I stand pat or not? That was the right. Stand pat until things started to change dramatically in the early 90s.
And then, we go down to Paul Beeson's office and get good tickets.
Tell him to wear socks. Yeah. So you probably weren't sitting in the $1 Dominion seats.
No, in fact, I remember one series we were sitting behind Bobby Brown, who was the commissioner.
Right. Yes.
And it was sort of interesting because peering over his shoulder, you saw he had a portable TV between his legs, watching the show so he could see what the commentators were saying about what was going on the ice,
on the field.
So anyway, Fergie's role as a color commentator and hearing his audition tapes grew out of the exposure he was getting on Just Like Mom. And every year the Blue Jays would do what's called a Blue Jay caravan. They go across Canada. And Fergie said wherever he went, kids would go, just like Mom, just like Mom, just like Mom, walking around. But he was a baseball guy because he originally played in the White Sox organization out in Moose Jaw. And people I know who saw him play said he was really good.
I'm wondering, did I know that? Because I feel like if I knew that, I'd be dropping that fun fact all the time. So he was a White Sox farmhand in the organization.
Yeah.
So the last time my mind was blowing like this is when I learned Randy Macho Man Savage was a pro baseball player for a while, an aspiring ball player, which I found amazing. But I did not know Fergie Oliver played pro ball. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just have to address something now, though, because literally the moment I said we were going to do a Just Like Mom deep dive and talk Fergie Oliver, right away, the former drummer of Our Lady Peace linked me to a certain YouTube video. Okay, so you've probably seen this YouTube video that.
But the internet is full of
things
that are make believe, Wizard of Oz stuff, and Fergie, I knew Fergie for years as well as anybody. It was his pal, best pal.
Right. You golfed every morning with the man.
Yeah. And Fergie was a real guy. There was nothing
Well,
sinister.
so how about we'll do it this way, because there's no way we can do this celebration without tackling this head on right here. And you who know him better than anybody is the perfect man for this. So what I did is I actually pulled, it's a couple of minutes long, but it's Kate Wheeler.
Okay, yeah.
So
She started in the kitchen on Just Like Mom.
yes, okay. So she came over and like just organically, Just Like Mom came up. And then we talked about this YouTube video where, I mean, literally like the title is something like, Pedo Game Show, I think is the title of this damn thing, right? So let me play what Kate Wheeler told me in the basement. She wasn't lucky enough to be out here where we are today. But let me play what Kate Wheeler told me in the basement, and then we'll talk a little more about that video and the Fergie Oliver So, you might need the headphones for this one, but this is Kate.
I can.
Okay, good. Here's Kate Wheeler. You were on CFTO, which is the CTV affiliate, in 1987. Is that right? Is that when you started your thinking?
I actually started doing work. You're going to love this. I started working. My mother was a producer there, and she produced shows such as Just Like Mom, Definition, Headline Hunters, Miss Canada. I was kitchen manager on Just Like Mom.
I had an idea when I was watching Just Like Mom as a kid that if I were going into the show, I would just tell my mom that I was the one who put all the ketchup
chocolate
in there or whatever.
And you don't think every kid did that? So let me tell you.
It's not my original idea.
I had to take up the concoctions. I had to buy all the food, which was sponsors' products, mainly like Robin Hood flowers and stuff. And I had to take the things that they mixed in the bowl, put them in 3 patty cups, cupcake things, right. Throw them in the microwave for 2 minutes and cook them. So, and people would always be trying to. So if you look at the thing, Catherine Swing would move along the row and say, "Oh, it looks like you need more of this. It looks like you need more of that."
Yeah.
And that's what she was doing. She was balancing out. Sneaky, huh?
How was she and Fergie? Because nowadays, Fergie, somebody did a clever editing job on a YouTube
awful.
Video that has basically destroyed the man's reputation.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, Fergie was nothing like that. Obviously, he. It's an edit, and you called it correctly. He was friendly. He was warm. He's loving. His young daughter was on the set all the time. No, I mean, that is not what they made out of that. I was shocked. And believe me, I would have, reported it. I mean, I think when I was working there, I was like 20 or early 20s. And I saw nothing like that. Nothing like that. And remember, we taped 6 shows on Saturday, 8 shows on Sunday. There was no time. We were just half-hour shows. They were moving through.
So that's Kate Wheeler when we discuss this topic here today. But you and by the way, are you still good friends with Fergie?
I don't know where he is. I mean, this is the nature of the business. You become very close with people, then other things happen, but he would still be a pal. If I saw him, it'd still be Fergie. You know what I mean? But no, Kate was on the money with what she said, and I don't know who would take the time to do something like that stupid video was, and even have access to those tapes. That's hard to get.
Does it have like Game Show Network? Maybe I'm just trying to think. They probably syndicated on.
I think okay. It was still on YTV.
That'll do it though. Then once. So basically, and this is my thoughts on it as well, and I don't know Fergie at all, except it does appear to be just you edit things down, you slow things down, that creepy sound you get when you slow down. Like you could pretty much, as an experiment, you could take any innocent happening and edit it in a certain way and suddenly say, oh, this is creepy. Look at this pedo game show host out of context.
Fergie's shtick was to get close to kids, to have fun with them. That was his shtick, and he was really good at it. And so that thing, I call it, is just pure nonsense.
How upset are you personally though that something that's so like pure and good can suddenly be painted in such a light just because of one video edit that seems to be flying around?
You can't worry about it because that wasn't the truth. I'm just concerned about the show we had, the time we had together. Someone wants to waste their time creating something that's a piece of nonsense like that. That's, No, I don't get upset because I don't think about it. I just think about Fergie as he really was. Fun loving. Boy, he was fun loving. Loved to play cards with anybody around, and loved to golf. I was his golfing buddy. He would talk about that on the show quite a bit too. And he just was a real fun loving, red blooded,
Right.
very red blooded, I might add, kind of guy.
Do you have any idea how old, like approximately how old Fergie is today?
Well, I don't like to say how old I am, but he's older than me by several years, maybe 10.
Okay, because if you did reveal the Fergie Oliver age, then I think there'd be a sneaky Wikipedia edit by Rosie Gray T.O. So, because right now Wikipedia doesn't have an age for Fergie.
I would put Fergie at around 80.
Okay, I thought maybe even older, but
maybe
okay,
could be. Because time goes by, and just like Mom is timeless. My relationship with him was a timeless one. I just remember him as a young guy, but like I said, he's a chunk of years older than me. So 80, 82, 83, whatever,
There's a real-time comment on the Facebook stream here from Paul Hawkyard. I better shut down the Facebook stream because it's going to be making noise like that. But it basically says, just wondering how much influence or decision-making did Fergie have on the broadcasts outside of just like Mom, specifically Jay's broadcast. Like, do you have any idea how big a stick he could wield?
Oh, yeah. Well, Fergie was because he was a baseball guy and knowledgeable about the game and a real fan of the Jays and knew everybody well.
Right.
He would, he and Kubik were good friends. He and Buck Martinez were good friends. We see Buck on the golf course a lot. So Fergie, knew what he was talking about, but he was also a fan. In other words, he came across as a Blue Jays fan, as well as being a color commentator.
Sure. Well, he played the ball, and then there's a nice Blue Jay tie-in here because just before we started recording, you showed me some pictures, and in fact, I'm going to make sure I do share this other picture too. The picture was Ernie Witt and Dave Stieb, but I think it's Ernie Witt and Rance Molyneux. Who is it that appears on an episode of Just Like Dad?
Well, we had a few Just Like Dad episodes. On one of them, we had the Blue Jay management. We had Pat Gillick and Paul Beeston and Paul Godfrey, who everybody forget brought the Blue Jays here.
Right.
Without Paul Godfrey, we wouldn't have a Major League Baseball team. We'd have the old Maple Leafs who played down at Maple Leaf Stadium.
They tore that stadium down, yeah. But I think that team was gone in early 70s.
I went to a lot of games, so don't make them sound too old.
Well, you have to be a baseball fan because you were born on. Yes. Okay, let me get this right. You were born the day Babe Ruth died.
Yes.
So it was destined.
I shed a tear when I was born.
That's a good sign, I think.
On the very day he died. So
wow. Okay, so Ernie. So tell me about any of the players.
So on one of the Just Like Dad shows, we had Ernie and Rance Molyneux, and I think one of the trainers was on that show. And then Fergie and I did a special down to coincide with the opening of the Epcot Center, an Easter special called Let's Play Ball, and which featured Dave Stieb and Ernie Witt following my instructions going around the Epcot Center. Now, when Fergie phoned me about this, he didn't know what an Epcot Center was, and I didn't know what an Epcot Center was.
Right.
But I just said, yeah, let's do it. And we went down there, and it turned out the Epcot Center was this big Disney deal, and the Blue Jays were at spring training. So I had to go meet with Bobby Cox to see if he'd let these guys go for a few days. And Bobby was a good guy. He really was a good guy.
Yeah.
Players really looked up to him, they liked him.
Well, he got us our first pennant in '85, and then he went to Atlanta the next year. I always feel things would have been different because we don't win another pennant till '89.
The only thing was he stayed with pitchers too long. He stayed with starting pitchers too long. That was the one thing, he should have. That was his Achilles heel. But apart from that, he was a really good.
It was always dangerous when you put Luis Leal out for the 8th inning. That's what I remember.
Anyway, so Bobby let us have, because I wanted to have some rationale for the show to exist in the first place. So I said, let's do Steve and Whit going around the Epcot Center, because they're $20 million starting pitcher and our catcher. And if you see the tape on it, you'll see Ernie Whit doesn't have his Blue Jays jacket on, where Steve does. And, I always thought, well, Ernie, that, maybe you don't like the fact that Steve's making $20 million, but you should still wear, you should still raise the flag. They are paying.
He was an original Blue Jay, right? He was original. I feel like him, Jim Clancy, and maybe Garth Orge or something were like.
Well, they were close.
Were they on that? Somehow they were on the 77 team.
I just remember Bob Baylor was on the 77.
Oh yeah, for sure. Bob Baylor. I think I have him in my record book mind that he was the first Jay to hit 300 in a season.
He was, because I remember I was in Africa shooting something there.
Yeah,
and it was really interesting getting the top, the sports pages,
right.
And see the top 10 player. And there's Bob Baylor when you're in Kenya.
yeah, I can't imagine that, especially back then. Now, this special, Let's Play Ball.
Yes.
I have it here, like the audio of this here. Do you want me to play a bit of this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because the whole thing, I think, is like 25 minutes, but
Yeah.
let me just start this up and let's see where it goes.
You got a diamond, you got 9 men, you got a hat and a bat, and that's not all. You got the bleachers, got them from spring till fall. You got a dog, and a drink, and the umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play ball. Is that a fly ball? Or is it a
Shout out to
seagull?
Keith Hampshire, FOTM Keith
Coming in
Hampshire.
from the lake just to catch the game. It's the last inning. Our guys are winning.
It still slaps though.
Takes put down a smoker, a strike, and you got no doubt. What do you want?
Let's play ball. Oh, the whole song's here. Okay. Okay.
Blue Jays. Let's
Woo!
Let's Play Ball is brought to you by Seal Test, the name to look for in delicious ice cream and dairy products.
sponsor again, right?
Of course, well, you're the man. I need you on the sales team here.
So just to give you a bit of interesting anecdote, when we started, because, we're doing this for Disney as well as CTV. So I figured, well, they're going to shut down things as we go. No, you don't do that. You've got to go with the flow. In other words, you got to, when something is happening, you just have to fit in somehow. Now, the first day it rained, so you got to still shoot. And so I grabbed Stephen Witt, and we went indoors, and I made up these chairs like they're going through the University of Energy, which is dinosaurs. And then you had to replicate the ride. So I had to make like they were really, because in the film you see them looking at the dinosaurs, but I had to give them the dialogue and say, here's a Tyrannosaurus Rex,
Right.
say something about this and say something about that over there. And so they never did go on the ride. We just have the illusion of them going in the ride.
Is there anything I can believe in this world? No, come on. It's all spoken business. Okay, so I'm just going to turn it up for like another minute or so to get a feel here. But
Combined with George Orta will give the Blue Jays two solid designated hitters. In fact,
I love
Orta
Cliff
is
Johnson,
convinced
by
that
the
he
way.
can
Love
hit
that
at
guy.
least 280.
Well, if I'd be able to put it together this year, I think I'd be able to hit 280 to if I
you should
get
aim
lucky,
higher, right?
maybe
I feel like this. Like I don't
300,
think these
if I
quotes
put
exist
it
anymore.
together
Yeah,
this year,
if it all comes together,
I
I'm going
hope
to hit
I can
280.
contribute to the club.
Dave Collins, obtained from
Dave,
the Yankees, is
there's
a
a
switch hitter with
speedster.
lots of speed. and will
60
bat
stolen
second in the
bases, as
lineup.
I
He
recall.
can also
Wow.
play
Very
2 or
good.
3 different positions.
I know that my asset is speed and the ability to hit. And,
They
just
traded
go
him,
over
right?
here
Because
and,
they
try to
wanted
get back on
Bobby
top of my
Cox to
game. I
play
feel I
George
can.
Bell,
I've got a
and Gillick
positive
wouldn't. He
frame of
wanted to
mind
play
and, You just got
Dave
believe in
Collins.
yourself.
So
Doesn't
Gillick
matter what
said,
somebody
okay,
else
now trade
believes.
him.
All
And
that
then now
matters is
play
what I
him. He's
believe, and
gone.
that's all that
He's
matters to me.
traded.
One position the Blue Jays will have to get better productivity out of is center field, and that's Lloyd Mosby.
Shaker.
Mosby's only 23 and has lots of talent, but so far he's been unable to put it all together.
I expect myself to do well every year, so I think it's kind of thing to where, this year I got to go out and really give it my all. And I feel I've learned a lot since I came up. I think this year I'm going to try to put it all together and possibly help this club.
But the key to the Blue Jays is still pitching, and they've got three of the best in the American League: Dave Stieb, Jim Clancy, and Luis Leal. And now they've added another right-hander, Mike Morgan.
They put him in the big three.
Let's look at the four starters and listen to catcher Ernie Whitt as he describes their capabilities.
Oh, Luis Leal is probably one of our
Paul, I just want to listen to this for 25 minutes. This is amazing.
He's more of a control.
Here, I'll bring it down.
pitcher.
We got lots to cover, but that's a gem. I did not know this existed, but this is quite the time capsule. So, what are we? 84? What are
83.
we? 83. Okay, that makes
when
sense.
the Epcot Center opened.
Right.
And like I said, Bobby Cox was really cool letting us have these guys, because we would be up till like midnight working inside the place. These different exhibits and everything. I had no time to go in and do site surveys, which I would normally do. We just had to do it all on the fly.
Right.
And I'd see it. There was this play in Italy, and I said to Steve, "Get up there, get in that play." And they made fun. They didn't know who he was.
Right.
Put a big nose on him, and he's going up to me like.
I'm glad he played. No pun intended, but he played ball like that, because there's different stories about Dave Stieb. Like sometimes because I do a show with Mark Hebscher, who never had good experiences with Dave Stieb when he was covering the team for Sportsline. Like Stieb seemed like a bit of a cranky pants.
Well, except when I go,
you gave him $50 bills. Is that what's the secret?
No, that was Ernie Whitt.
That's Ernie Whitt. Okay.
Yeah. Ernie could smell a microphone a mile away too.
Because that was like the Fergie Oliver thing, right? You got the 50 for doing. Yes, I remember this story.
Yeah, but not. I mean, maybe Steve was cranky, but I didn't have that experience. Okay. He was very obedient when we were shooting this. Yeah,
that's good to hear. That's good to hear. And again, was it Bobby Cox who was so good with you that he even did the whole Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, he did the Mickey Mouse thing.
So he cuts Mickey Mouse. Is that the deal? Mickey's trying to make the Jays?
Mickey didn't make the team, and he cut him. And so that's the last thing we see is sorry, you got some talent, but maybe you have a better line of work somewhere else.
And Paul, how many years does Just Like Mom run for?
We did 5 years, 130 originals a year, which is 260. Wow. So I was on every day, Monday to Friday. And then we there was a divorce thing happening between Fergie and Kathy, and that's unfortunately how it ended. And there was no future for Just Like Mom, because there was, so we sold the rights to the show to CTV. We'd had a good run. And then, of course, a couple of years later, the 500 channel Universe comes along, and YTV is licensing the show for 5 years every day. And then the game show channel is licensing it every day for 5 years. That's where it resides now. And then a young kid from New Brunswick, Mark Bishop, who had watched the show growing up, comes to Toronto, goes to Ryerson, and forms a company called Marble Media. And he and his partner buy the rights to Just Like Mom, the show that I created, buy my format rights. And then they replicate the show as Just Like Mom and Dad, which is currently on the air on CTV.
Oh, is it CTV or is it on Yes TV?
It's on Yes TV too, but it's also on CTV.
Okay.
That's its big, it's Saturday morning, 8:30. Plus it's on BYU in the United States.
Right. Bring them young. Yeah, you bring them young. Now, I think that these gentlemen who did this reboot of Just Like Mom, they're the people behind. There was a kids show called This Is Daniel Cook. Because I got teenagers, and there's a show, This Is Daniel Cook, and I think that was their jam. I think.
Okay. Anyway, I helped them. I gave them back episodes of Just Like Mom, and all the. I have a whole stockpile of photos, and I explained to them to them how we did certain things, and they still can't do what I did. And they said, Paul, you're a legend around here. Last time I saw him, and then we went. Brock and I went to the first taping. They invited us to the first taping, introduced me. I wore this again.
Wow.
And as the creative producer, just like, Mom, here we are, folks. And that was neat, because to see it come out again, the thing that had come into my head in a very short space of time back in 1980, to see it being born again.
Wow.
It's like, I guess, seeing a grandchild or something. And it was really an experience. And the first show, the first taping, the prize wheel at the end, it wouldn't stop. So it must have gone around 30 times. And
too much lubricant, I think, in the gears.
Yeah. And also, one of the cameramen on that show was a cameraman from our days at CFTO, doing Just Like Mom. So that was kind of interesting too.
Did Just Like Mom, did that take the space formerly occupied by Uncle Bobby? Like, is this the same space in Agincourt? Do you know?
I don't know, and I don't care. We did a 41
Shout
share.
out to Uncle Bobby.
We did a 41 share, which was all that mattered. Ratings.
This is a true producer right here.
The producer is king in television, believe me.
Right.
Because we had lots of directors that would come and go, but and I was a nice producer. Don't get me wrong, but
Uncle Bobby had his day. I'm just curious about this. Like, whenever I hear about these Agincourt shows in the early '80s, I always remember, like, who is it that Uncle Bobby vacates and now this space goes to Just Like Mom? Where does
what was
Super Dave Osborne show up? Like,
oh yeah, because he was taping next door all the time. Bizarre,
right? Yeah.
And so I'd see Super Dave all the time. Very serious guy off camera. Super Dave.
Yeah, Bob Einstein, the late great. Wow. Now, you were telling me,
we have all kinds of people walk into this.
Well, I was going to ask you, there was some this is like a hot ticket, right? Just Mom. You got some celebs people that want a part of it.
Yeah, because it was a big deal, because there's a big studio, big lights, big set, big audience, So Howie Mandel would come in. My father had kicked him out of high school once.
Howie Mandel. So what's that? Your dad taught him?
No, he was principal at a school Howie went to.
Kicked him out.
And I didn't say this to Howie at the time, but my dad was a good principal, coached the football team, winning this record in Toronto history as a football coach.
Oh, I had a note about this. Yeah,
even as a principal, he coached the football team, coached swimming, coached us growing up. That's why you had to learn swimming, hockey.
Is your dad still in the books as the winningest football coach in Toronto history?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Quarterback at UT, and did maths and physics, which didn't help me any because I was no good in them.
Okay, so other celebrities that drop by, just because I love these name drops here.
Yeah, Peter Ustinov. And now, of course, for me, that was a bit of foreshadowing, because I became linked in with Michael Anderson, the famous film director.
Right.
And he and Peter Ustinov made their first film together called Private Angelo.
Wow.
And Peter went on to win 3 Academy Awards. And Michael won Best Picture for Around the World in 80 Days. And Michael and I, subsequent to my relationship with Fergie, Michael and I had a 30-year relationship. I was his best friend, his manager, and got him all his gigs. I'll give you an example. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Here's how it happens, Mike.
Yeah,
okay.
Tell me.
Okay, so I'm looking at there's a couple of trade magazines, Variety and what's the other one? Hollywood Reporter. Thank you, Tim.
That's why Tim's here.
That's why
Tim came up with that answer. Everybody.
Pulling up the slack when need be.
So, I thought he fell asleep. Actually, I was going to nudge him, but he's still with us. Good.
Anyway, so I'm flipping through the Hollywood Reporter one day.
Yes.
And this is in 1996, just to put it in some kind of context. And I see this ad, nice ad by Hallmark Entertainment, and they had a bunch of books on a bookshelf. Tom Sawyer, family books. Tom Sawyer, Connecticut Yankee, and King Arthur's Court, The Three Musketeers, and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was one of them. And I thought, it's a good looking ad. Went to sleep that night, woke up and realized 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That was written by Jules Verne, the same guy that wrote Around the World in 80 Days,
Yes.
40 years ago. So we had done a film for Hallmark, Captain's Courageous, which had done very well ratings-wise. So I phoned Dan Martin, head of production. I said, Dan, I see 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas in your bookcase in the Hollywood Reporter. So I assume you have a script for it, or else why would it be there?
Look at you.
And he said, yes, we do. And I said, Dan, I'll give you 48 hours to see if we can make a deal for Michael to do that. Wow. And see, sometimes you have to say 48 hours because that scares them.
You know, that's a good sales technique. Give them a deadline. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's 48 hours, you know. Because Michael had done a lot of big films and sea films too. Orca the Killer Whale, the Yangtze Incident. And he'd done Captain's Courageous for them, which was a sea film as well with Robert Urich. And so within 48 hours, we had a deal, and they made a deal with CBS for $8 million.
Wow.
Yeah, on the show back
and
in 1996.
And this comes from, you saw the book.
It comes from me, yes. And I said, Dan, I will go you one better.
Yeah.
I will throw this in. I will get you publicity that you don't get. And sure enough, I got them a full page in the New York Times.
Wow.
And the cover of the television supplement to the LA Times the week it was out. And that was the week of the Oscars too. So I don't fool around when it comes to promotion here, Mike. And that's why when I say you're the guy, that means something.
No, that's why I'm going to cut that out and just put it as my new introduction or whatever. Richard Dawson too, right? Richard
Dawson was there.
Harvey Atkins.
Legend. Yeah. When he wasn't selling real estate.
Wow. Okay. I'm just checking out this. And we did mention your dad. And I mean, I still think that's amazing. Your dad is the winningest football coach in Toronto history. But tell me about there's a story there. I know there's a story about your dad who you kind of refer to as kind of like a caped crusader. Like
yes.
He's tireless in his efforts to work on. But somehow, tell me about that and how does that tie in with the great one, right?
Okay, so one day, Dad, unbeknownst to us, picked up Wayne Gretzky at the airport and brought him home. Just very nonchalant because my father at this time had retired and was the head of the Council on Drug Abuse. And so Wayne was very interested in that because at that time, because his father too had such a strong work ethic.
Right.
And so he was very interested in what my father was doing and seeing if he could help out in the development of programs that related to it. So he was kicking around the house in the yard.
Yeah, just only the greatest hockey player on the planet.
Yeah, but very small. And I'm always surprised when some of the great athletes are small guys like Mike Tyson and Lyle Alzado, small guys, like Wayne was a very small guy. You wouldn't, to look at him, to meet him, you wouldn't think this guy was the amazing player you saw on the ice.
Yeah, he was probably like 6 feet, 170 pounds or something like that.
He wasn't 6 feet.
No?
No, wait, no.
They lie on these cards, right?
He was more like 5'9".
Yeah, Gretzky. Okay, well, I don't know the true height because I never met the man, but I'm pretty sure they list him on the card as 6 foot. That could be BS.
Whatever they list him at, he wasn't because I'm 5'11". He was shorter than me.
Oh, that's because I met Ty Domi once, and he was on his card. He was listed at 5'10", and I was looking down at Ty Domi, and I'm like, I'm a 5'9" guy, and I'm looking down at this 5'10" guy. I don't think this card is accurate. So.
Yeah. No, that's that's the way of the world, though.
Sure.
Right?
Okay, I didn't realize he was that
Sylvester
small.
Stallone. William Goldman in his book Adventures in the Screen Trade. He was a famous screenwriter. He wrote he won Oscars for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and All the President's Men. And in his book, he was always fascinated with the height of actors,
right? Because
most of them are very short. And so he stalked Stallone in a pool once, and to see how tall he was, and he said 64 inches.
To make you do the math at 12, divide by 12.
Yeah. So, but you see him with lifts on the Oscars.
Sure. All these guys, like I know Pacino's short and De Niro's short, and
they're all tiny. I mean, Dustin Hoffman's probably
Right.
the tiniest of all.
Right. And then your exception, I guess, would be the guy who isn't. I know Clint Eastwood really is a tall guy, right?
Clint Eastwood is
Yeah.
tall, yes. And as you know, I met Clint.
Tell me about meeting Clint.
Okay,
He's still with us.
this is during my acting years, down in Hollywood. I went to Hollywood to, instead of going to National Theater School where I was invited to go, I went to Hollywood instead because I knew I'd go there after the National Theater School, which would have taken 4 years of my life. And I met Clint because I a bit part in a film called Paint Your Wagon, which has been
satirized on The Simpsons.
Paint Your Wagon is that right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been parodied on The Simpsons. And that's keep going because I know the reference here.
It was a big hit on Broadway, directed by Joshua Logan, who was directing the film, and Lee Marvin, who was always smashed, was in it. And Clint. So I met Clint, and he was what you see. He was tall, lanky, laconic, big thatch of hair, and we talked for a while, and he told me about how you got to sell your soul to the devil to get anywhere as an actor, as he had. Right. Should I tell that story or not?
Yes, you should.
Is this a family show or
you can?
Is this a fringe?
Not a family show.
Okay. And the story is written by Sandra Locke in her book, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Okay. Sandra, of course, was Tim's, squeeze for years.
Tim's?
Clint. I
was going to say, it is quite the bomb he's dropping here.
Yeah. So anyway, Clint wanted to get into the Universal Talent School because that's where you get a chance to shine. To do that, he had to live with this guy for a few months. And by living with them, I mean living with them, not just making toast and oranges in the morning.
Right.
And out of that, he got 2 lines in Revenge of the Creature, then a couple lines in Tarantula, and then Rawhide, playing Rowdy Yates, and eventually Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, A Fistful of Dollars, and for which he got $25,000. And that was a good gig because that's the gig that made Clint.
Yes. After
he'd sold his soul to the devil, the hat, the cigarello, the silent kind of eye, and the poncho with the jeans, the well-worn jeans, the boots with the spurs, and that played at the Odeon Carlton in Toronto and went through the roof. Now, no one expected this film to do anything, but after it went through the roof at the Carlton, it played all over the world, made a fortune. And that's when people discovered in LA, in Hollywood, that Toronto had a cosmopolitan audience. And so it became a testing ground for films. And out of that grew the Toronto Film Festival because of the cosmopolitan audience. And it all goes back to A Fistful of Dollars.
Wow.
Playing at the Odeon Carlton.
See, this guy gets it. Okay. I'm just looking at Tim right now, but Paul gets it. That's the crap I'm interested in. But I'm going to just sprinkle some fun facts because we mentioned you were born the day Babe Ruth died.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth, as you know, hit his first professional home run on the island here in Toronto.
Yeah, I was a real Babe Ruth fan once after I was born.
I was going to say, you shed your tear. Now, you're a Etobicoke guy?
Etobicoke guy. Went to, my plaza was Humbertown because I know you like the retro stuff.
Yeah, that's like Dundas and Royal York.
Yeah.
Yes, I know it well.
Humbertown. And sure. I went to one of my public schools. I went to a few because I was in this brain class where they experiment on you and do electroshock and everything.
Because you had a big brain.
And so one of them was close by here, Norseman Public School.
Know it very well. Yeah. In fact, the first home I ever owned was on Islington, right around Norseman.
Yep. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it was there in the schoolyard one day that I discovered horror movies. This guy had a magazine called Famous Monsters of Filmland, with a picture of the creature from War of the Worlds on it.
Right.
I thought, well, this is interesting. So I got a subscription. Then I started watching horror movies in it all the time, And we were one of the few homes in Toronto in the West End that had telemeter. And have you heard of telemeter?
No, I don't think so.
Well, here's a fun fact for you.
I'm ready.
Then. Telemeter was the first paid television. It was literally, it was an experimental thing that was in several homes in Etobicoke. It was literally this box, and you would put quarters in.
Wow.
And you would get this movie that would come out.
Okay.
And so my friends would come over, and we'd watch things like It the Terror from Beyond Space and The Enemy Below. And then my parents would watch An American in Paris and stuff like that. But it was pay TV where you actually put the money in.
That I never heard of it. That's amazing.
Yeah, telemeter. It's on the internet, but it was pay TV, and it was crazy,
And I have here that I'm interested in your favorite teen hangout was Pat's Steak on a Bun.
Pat's Steak on a Bun, absolutely, man. I mean, a lot of people hung around there, including my first wife. I haven't had a second wife yet, but
there's still time.
she and I met there a lot, and Rick O'Brien, who was a good friend of mine, who eventually founded the Bamboo Club.
Oh yeah,
and the O'Haras, Marcus,
Mary,
Maureen, and Catherine.
Catherine, of course.
Kathy O'Hara.
Sure.
And just a lot of guys. One of the, I'll mention this too, because this is an interesting fact. One of the guys I went to school with at Richview Collegiate, we had two black guys, and they were both brothers. So, I mean, that's when, things were a little different than they are now.
Right.
One of the guys was named Gary Richardson, and Gary I played football, and Gary was a great halfback, man. He was really good. You know what his destination was? Becoming Pokeroo on Polka Dot Door.
I tweeted this. I tweeted today, and these are timestamped, so I'm not pulling your leg here. I tweeted about how infuriated I was as a kid that the guy on Polka Dot Door always just missed Pokeroo. Like, I missed him again. That was the whole thing. Every episode, he missed him again. And I also, in the same tweet, I said I also hated that, like, everyone missed Snuffleupagus on Sesame Street. Only Big Bird ever saw Snuffleupagus. Like, so that was just literally today. I was thinking about Pokeroo, and then you sit down there and say you knew the guy. So the guy, you knew the guy in the Pokeroo suit on Polka Dot Door.
Absolutely, yeah. Last saw him at a Richview reunion a few years ago.
Stop the presses. That's it. I have my lead now. I know what. Forget Just Like Mom. This is Pokeroo Revealed is the name of this episode here. And you played hockey with Ken Dryden?
Yes. Ken, his father, Murray Dryden, started the Humber Valley Hockey Association, and they lived on Anglesey, right across from Humber Valley Public School. And in the backyard, they had a yard like yours, except it was all cement, and they had two hockey nets on either end because they would practice all year long.
Right.
Because back then, Ken was a goalie, an okay goalie. His brother Dave was a real star, though, as a goalie. What Ken was that was amazing, he was an incredible pitcher. I played rep baseball with Ken, and this guy was awesome. He'd have 20, 21, 22 Ks a game.
Wow.
Oh, man. If you hit against him in batting practice, it was so scary because that thing, talk about Louis TL, that thing would just explode in on you. He was big and powerful. Everybody thought he was going to, including me, that he was going to be a pro pitcher and not a goalie, right? Because he was only an okay goalie.
He was just okay.
He emerged from Cornell because the Canadians had injuries to their goalies, and then ends up playing in Boston, stoning Boston, then wins Stanley Cup. He won 6 Stanley Cups in 8 years that he played.
And that was it.
But you know what? They were wonderful, good guys. In other words, they were very gentlemanly, and you appreciate that.
Well, speaking of gentlemanly athletes, I want to talk to you about Paul Henderson.
Oh yeah, there's a
gentleman, right?
And a hero. we have two sports legends that are Canadian from the 20th century, Paul Henderson and Northern Dancer. And I looked up to them both.
Well, yeah, Northern Dancer. Okay, Paul Henderson, still with us, thankfully. Paul Henderson, most famous, I suppose, for his performance in the 1972 Summit Series against USSR. Scored the winning, as you said, reminded me before we started, in those last, so it was a strange tournament in that it's 8 games, right? Like 4 and 4.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a best of 7 or whatever. It's 4 and 4. But in those final 3 games, which Canada wins, Paul Henderson scores the winner in all 3 of those.
All 3 of those games. And that was extraordinary. And in the last game, the Russians were going to declare, if it ended in a tie, they were going to say that they won because they scored the most goals.
Right.
But here Henderson scores like with a minute left.
Yeah.
And it was just, the country, everybody went crazy.
Paul, I was not alive, and I feel like I heard Foster Hewitt call this live. Like, I feel like, oh yeah, I remember when Foster Hewitt made the goal. A wild stab for it and fell. He scores. Henderson scores for Canada. I wasn't even alive.
I know. Well,
what a big deal that was.
It was incredible. I was at this party with 30 other people, and we were so down after the third period because we were losing 5-3. And Trechek, their goalie, was astonishing.
Yeah.
How are we going to come back? You just felt...
And to know that a tie wasn't going to be sufficient, like you needed 3 goals.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm glad I missed it. I don't know if my heart would have taken it.
Oh, it was really hard. But when Henderson scored, I have never been in a room that went as crazy. It was just bedlam. You couldn't believe it.
Because it felt like it was more than a hockey game, right? This was geopolitical.
There's never been a moment like in Canada. Because sea to shining sea, everybody went crazy. People fell out of fishing boats in Inuit. You know, like you read Paul's book, and he talks about it. And also, he had 7 20-goal games.
Seasons, yeah.
Seasons, rather. For the Leafs.
That'd be a heck of a game. 20 goals. Holy.
2 of them 30 goals or better. The season before he had 38 goals because he came here in a trade with Detroit because he had played for the Detroit junior team, won the Memorial Cup with them, and was a star in junior hockey, and then came here with a trade with Detroit. Detroit got Floyd Smith, Peter Stemkowski, and Gary Younger, and the Leafs got and the rights to Carl Brewer, and the Leafs got Henderson, Norm Ullman, and one other guy. Can't remember right now. That's pretty good remembering those names.
No, I'm impressed.
But he was, and also the first player to wear a helmet.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
he's number 1, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
I know he's not in the Hall of Fame. I know this, but I take it you think he belongs there.
Well, the reason he isn't is because of Harold Ballard. See, what happened the year after he won the Summit Series, he had a groin injury. So, he didn't have a stellar year for the Leafs. Then the year after, he was back in form again. Then the year after, he met with Ballard at the Hot Stove Lounge with his agent, Alan Eagleson, chancy guy anyway. And Ballard, who was so tight with money, he pulls a nickel out of his pocket, the beaver blinks at the light.
Legendary.
So, Henderson looks at this and he throws the contract at Ballard. And Ballard says, "Get out of here. You're banned from the Gardens forever," which was really a shame because when he was asked to be a color commentator for CBC, and he would have been great, Ballard said, "No, he's not setting foot in this building." Anyway, so then he goes to the Toros. He plays several years for the Toros, and the Birmingham. John Bassett moves him down to Birmingham. So he never got a full, tour of duty in the NHL, and that's the only reason he's not in the Hall of Fame. And he should be because of his heroics in the 72 Summit Series. I mean, it was the greatest sports event in Canadian history, like I said, and close up there is Northern Dancer winning the Kentucky Derby.
Wow.
At 4-1.
Like, Yeah, I guess horses are athletes. I guess why not?
Well, you bet they are.
Okay, I
And
know.
Northern Dancer.
I know.
Now, the Derby had been going on since the 1880s. Northern Dancer broke the track record for the Derby at 2 minutes.
I don't know if I knew that, but I do know when I bike in the East End there, I know there's at the Greenwood area, whatever, there's streets named after Northern Dancers.
Yeah,
so.
and Woodbine, there's
Right.
fittingly, there's a statue. And Northern Dancer is the most successful sire in racing history.
Is that right?
The most successful. His bloodlines are incredible.
Now, back to Paul Henderson real here before
Yeah.
we wrap up. Talking Faith with Paul Henderson. Is that a Paul Burford production?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Paul. I had to write all the scripts, and I worked with Paul for several months on that because it's a 12-part DVD series, and I had to find things that worked for Paul, subjects that worked for him, then writing it in the dialogue that would suit him, and then so he had recipe cards in front of him. He would read from the recipe cards. And I told him, don't worry, Paul, make you look good. So it was all cut. So you'd never see him reading from these cards. And he'd be as if he's talking naturally. But he was good. It was...
Should I play a little of it?
Sure.
Okay, let's play a little bit of
I'm very proud of this series.
Talking Faith with Paul Henderson. I saw him golfing there, so he's also a...
Oh, yeah, he's a good golfer. Yeah.
See, it all comes down to golf with this guy.
Here's another shot, right by the goal! And scores for Canada!
Welcome to Talking Faith with Paul Henderson. And now, let's give a warm welcome to Paul and our host, Ms. Cheryl Josephson.
Thank you, and welcome to Talking Faith with Paul Henderson. My name is Cheryl Josephson, and I'm going to be your host for this series. It's a 12-part series in which we hope to paint a picture of what it looks like to live a life of faith in Jesus Christ every day. We're going to tap into the learnings of Paul Henderson and the life story of yours, Paul, and we can't do that without talking about the goal. So let's start there. Let's just get it out of the way because we know everybody wants you to talk about it. Let me set some context. 1972, we're in the middle of the Cold War, Canada-Russia Summit Series. Our NHL players have never before played Russia's best, and we actually thought, I think, a lot of the players thought it would be a cakewalk, and it was anything but. So we go to Moscow. We're in the final game of the series. It's all tied up. Series is tied. Game is tied. We're in the last minute of the game, and an entire country is holding its breath. Pick up the story. We know how it ends, but we never get tired of hearing about it.
Well, actually, I never felt this much pressure in my life, and I did something I'd never done before. I was on the bench. There was about a minute left in the game, and I stood up and started yelling at Peter Mohavich, the left winger, to come off the ice. Maybe because I had scored the winning goal in the two previous games, but I just had to get out on the ice. Thank goodness Peter thought the coach was yelling at him when I jumped over the boards. And
history was made.
Well, yeah, 10 seconds later, scored a goal that's been called the goal of the century. And so it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Did you relive that goal in your head?
That's unbelievable. I've heard that anecdote before, but the whole idea that he wasn't even supposed to be on the ice. No,
it was, but he's a classy guy, Paul, and it was one of those experiences as a producer, a director, a writer that I really did enjoy because sometimes you don't, people are stars and sometimes you don't care for them that much, like Stephen Young.
Right. He could have been.
But Paul Henderson really was a classy guy and still is, but it was great doing this series with him. We taped 12 shows, 3 a night for 4 nights. And it's a good legacy series for Paul having this show, and it won platinum down at the Houston Film and Video Series.
good.
Which is the oldest film festival in North America.
So look, you had a good experience recording with Paul, and I just want to say I have just had a great experience recording with Paul Burford. This was fantastic. Anything we left on the, I don't want to leave anything on the cutting room floor that is vital, but is there anything else in the Just Like Mom story or your story or anything else you want to share before we play out?
Yeah, just you talked to my dad. I'll add a couple other things. He was also the president of the Ontario Headmasters Association, and he wrote the grade 13 geometry textbook that was used in high school, which didn't help me out very much because that was my worst subject. And all my math teachers, oh, you got to be good in this. I said, no, I'm not.
So not just a great football coach, but also an academic leader as well. That's cool. And again, say hi to your son Broccoli for me. And I just love how this all came together again. So this is happening now because on an episode of Pandemic Friday, which is a subset of Toronto Mic'd, Stu Stone mentioned Sunshine and Broccoli. He just said some I can't even remember the context, but he mentioned Sunshine and Broccoli. Tim here, sitting to my left, who listens to every Toronto Mic'd episode, here's the reference to Sunshine and Broccoli. And I'm guessing, Tim, you told Paul, and then Paul tells Broccoli. Next thing you know, it's Stu says, hey, I heard from Sunshine and Broccoli. They want to do Toronto Mic'd. I reach out to Sunshine, I think, and we book it. It happens. Did you enjoy the episode, Sunshine and Broccoli, on Toronto Mic'd?
Oh, yeah, I did. Although, to be honest, Brock had just had a fight with his fiance before coming on the show.
Real talk.
He was not at his best, and he kept using the word amazing. And I said, "You sound like Donald Trump." And
it's harder on Zoom though. And he would have been better in person.
No. So I hope you have him back on because he'll be ripe to go and to be more of himself.
Well, if he comes back on, it's got to be in the backyard, not Zoom, and he's got to bring a guitar this time. I want a guitar back here.
Backyard, like me. He likes the great outdoors. And
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, you asked me if there are any missing links. Probably talking about Fergie and golfing is one of those things, because Fergie was such an enjoyable golf companion. We do the putting green thing beforehand, and then Fergie would always say, okay, this time we're going to stick to the rules, which meant we hadn't done it. And now I hate to play with guys who are these PGA rule freak guys, And he said, okay, it's going to be rules all the way. I said, sure. And so the third and the fourth hole, Fergie would say, I think I'll take another shot here. He said, feel free to take a mulligan. And
right?
it was, that was Fergie, though. Just always a fun-loving guy. Like he really was a lot of fun.
Do you hope you have a chance to, share some more thoughts, memories with him, reach out to him, have contact with him?
Yeah. I actually looked for him on the internet and couldn't figure out anything.
Well, his daughter works at the shopping channel, right? She's on air at the shopping channel. Like
Carrie,
she could probably make the magic happen.
Yeah. Oh no, there are ways that I can.
We can reunite. But Paul, thanks so much, buddy. It was great to talk to you. Great to talk some Sunshine and Broccoli, and of course, the Just Like Mom origin story and all that information. I loved watching that show as a kid, and I'm just glad that somebody else who was there and knew Fergie well could just speak to the video, because if you don't speak against the video, people who are there, then that video becomes the definitive, somehow becomes the gospel, if you will. So,
yeah, which isn't
fair. Which is why you've got you and Kate Wheeler and everybody else has got to not be shy about it all. But thanks for doing that. I have a Toronto Mic'd sticker. I have more gifts for you. So I mentioned the Palma pasta and you got your beer, although Tim's drinking it all. But the Toronto Mic'd sticker there on the counter, on the table there, that's from stickeru.com. They're great partners of the program. And actually, I have some hand sanitizer there for you from Ridley Funeral Home. And it goes without saying, I know you're an Etobicoke guy, but if you ever want to return, then Mimico Mike is your man. You go to realestatelove.ca, reach out to Mike Majeski, and just let him know Toronto Mike sent you. That's what you do, buddy. And that brings us to the end of our 870th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. Paul, you're not on Twitter, right?
No, I'm not.
You're hiding. You're smart. Stay off
Yes,
Twitter.
yes.
It's dangerous.
I just, there's, you know, I mean, perhaps I should be, but I'm not.
Stay where you are. Trust me, you're fine. You're fine. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery, they're at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Sticker U is at Sticker U. Ridley Funeral Home, they're at Ridley FH. And Mimico Mike, he's not on Twitter either. He's on Instagram at Majeski Group Homes. See you all next week.
And I'll play this guitar just the best that I can. Maybe I'm not and maybe I am. Who gives a damn, because everything.
This podcast has been produced by TMDS and accelerated by Roam Phone. Roam Phone brings you the most reliable virtual phone service to run your business and protect your home number from unwanted calls. Visit roamphone.ca to get started.